What's up, everybody? It's Soren Baker.
Amir, Rahimi.
And this week on The Great Debaters, get into one of my favorites, Compton's Most Wanted. Alright, Amir, so today on The Great Debaters, we're getting into a little Compton's Most Wanted music to drive by. But first, everybody, please, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, like our content, share, talk about it, be about it, each one, teach one. We appreciate your guys' support. Please subscribe. If you've already subscribed, tell a friend to subscribe, because we need to keep growing and get to that #1 spot on YouTube so we can keep doing more Great Debaters and keep doing as many interviews as possible for y'all. So, man, Amir, Compton's Most Wanted, one of our favorite groups, one of the best groups, I think, in rap history. And, man, Music to Drive By, the third LP, 1992. Amir, what were your thoughts? How did you get into this album when you were first getting into it?
Really, the way I got into this album was because I had heard like their other stuff, but this album, what intrigued me so much is because when I was looking at like a bunch of lists and what people like in hip-hop and trying to dictate what I should buy next based on just popularity, because I didn't have all the money in the world back then, but I remember...
Now you do.
Now I have a little bit more money, so now when I saw the cover always intrigued me. I always thought it was a fascinating cover because not only was the cover great, they're in the car, you see the guns in the back, then you see a copy of their own album in the back, so it's like you just keep zooming in, you keep seeing the album no matter which way you do it. But that intrigued me, right? What put me onto this album, actually, even before all that, before I had heard Compton's Most Wanted, before I had owned a Compton's Most Wanted album, I should say, was I was always at my homie's house. They were always playing, video games. I wasn't as big in video games as they were. But they were playing Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. And Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, as people may know, it had like the radio station Radio Los Santos. And one of the songs on there was Hood Took Me Under. And that's going to be my first pick. So Hood Took Me Under was, I distinctly remember that beat. Just that incredible beat. It's a little menacing. You hear 8's vocals, but I remember hearing that beat just more than anything because my friends didn't. I mean, you also couldn't hear it all the time because in that game, you're shooting stuff up, you're on missions, you're doing all that stuff, and so when I'm hearing that in the background, I'm like, damn. So that stuck with me, and when I bumped this, I was like, oh, this was in GTA San Andreas. Man, so that gives me so much nostalgia. Then you bring in 8's actual raps, and you're just like, he's just bringing it. You know what to expect out of MC8, right? At this point in his career, you pretty much know you're going to get some great rapping skills, in my opinion. I think he knows what he can do, and I think he does it very well. He doesn't try and rap too fast. He also doesn't stick with like the same flow the entire song, in the sense where sometimes he'll just slow things down to make the bar just sound better. I think that's a very underrated skill of his. And then he's just talking about how the hood took him under, right? I mean, and not just him, but, the people around him, as you can hear in his verses. And one thing that I think is so great where he says, his brain cells are dead, and he's like loading up the strap and stuff. And I just think that's crazy because he's saying like now he's not even thinking of what he's doing. He's just instinctively going for the gun, loading it up, causing trouble. The hood took him under, like he's a victim of his surroundings and all this stuff. And I think with this type of beat, with this being a single, I think it definitely got to a bigger crowd. Shout out to DJ Pooh and everyone for getting it on San Andreas, because I think it's amazing. I think it put a lot of people, including my friends, I know a lot of people who listen to this song. This is definitely one of my favorite songs on the album, as you can tell, and I think that beat is just so great too. So shout out to, I'm not remembering exactly who produced it, but shout out to Mike T. Okay, so Mike T, I mean, Unknown did well in this album. Slip, 8, really good first pick.
Yes, Hood Done Took Me Under is also one of my picks. Mike T, phenomenal work, and I love when we hear these different things that other people used in different ways later, like we hear Warning from Biggie use this similar elements of it, which I, of course, really enjoyed in that song. Was super big, super popular, but the way that MC8 rapped over this, man, phenomenal piece of work. And I just think it shows 8's he's a great storyteller, and he really shines on The Hood Took Me Under because he's talking about, like he often does, a lot of the struggles and the strife that goes from living in the hood and his life growing up in Compton and stuff. So incredible. And I just think the beat, as we saw with It's a Compton Thing, as we saw with the Straight Checking Them, and as we see throughout Music to Drive By, the beats that they used, made, created, selected, and that 8 raps over, so phenomenal. So phenomenal. And Hood Done Took Me Under is no exception. So, that's my first pick. Amir, what's your next pick on Music to Drive By?
So, next pick, let's go ahead and do Into Deep. So, Into Deep, man. I mean, that song, first off, it's like the only rap feature on the album. And it was also interesting because I would just assume, right? I would just assume it would be someone from the West Coast. Particularly from Compton, but especially someone on the West Coast, what I'd assume. Then we get Scarface on this, and it's like the collaboration that I'd obviously want, I didn't expect, and boy am I glad they're on this track together, because Scarface is one of the best rappers of all time, maybe the best catalog ever, that's another discussion, but he's amazing. Then we get 8, who in this time in his career in particular is just destroying stuff. Then we hear this beat, and we just hear them, we have a verse apiece, and then like Scarface where he says Mr. Scarface, in the non-deuce. So I'm just like, man, this is so special. I really hope that people aren't, there's so much great music out there, and I really hope people don't forget some of the stuff like on this album, because Into Deep is so great. And like I said, it's not a short album by any means. So if I recall, it's 18 tracks. I can't see on this cassette, it's not telling me, but if I recall, it's 18 tracks. 18? So 18 tracks to only have one feature. And then remember, the chill isn't on this album. Right. So the fact that MC8 is holding this whole thing down, he has Scarface on here, they both massacre the track. That's crazy that 8's able to do all this just on his own. He's supposed to be like, not just a solo act on the microphone side.
Right.
So, man, I mean, Into Deep, I mean, the lines on there are dope, the beat is excellent, is so good, man. I mean, this is possibly my most played song on the album. Soren, I can't imagine this not being in your top 3.
No, this is absolutely, Into Deep is absolutely my number 2 pick on Music to Drive By. And the interesting thing is, if you guys haven't seen it, check it out up there. I interviewed Scarface and talked to him about how he got this opportunity when he had come to Los Angeles, and he met up with 8 and the wild story on that. So please check that interview if you haven't already. But man, I remember this is one of those times where when I got Music to Drive By and I just listened to the album and I just didn't really look. And when I heard Scarface on it, I was so blown away and so excited and so happy back in 1992. Man, it was a beautiful thing. So to hear them in their very different, distinctive styles of their menacing raps, it's incredible, man. And Scarface, as Amir said, is literally one of the best of all time. Top 5 for sure. Dead or alive, should be on anybody's list. He's phenomenal. And to see him shine on a very unexpected thing, at least for me on the outside looking in, it was a masterpiece, beautiful thing. And I love the fact that as we get a lot on Music to Drive By, some of the beats are so slow, and usually when beats are slow, I don't feel that they're so menacing or foreboding or eerie a lot of the time. Not always true, but a lot of the time, generally speaking, I don't feel that way. But man, this beat with its slow, it's so powerful, even though it's super slowed down. And I really appreciate that. And I think 8 and Face on top of it is a magical combination. So that's my second pick. Amir, what's your third pick on Music to Drive By?
Third pick, man, it's interesting because like even looking back, or like I said, I can't really see anything on this track list, but if I recall, pretty much every song, except for maybe 1, maybe 2, they're all in the 3-minute range. They're all just like seconds away from each other. They're just all in the 3-minute range. So it's like there wasn't too much variant in terms of
Hit the Floor's shorter.
Hit the Floor is a shorter one, right? So and that's like a minute something. So like that's the shortest track, and then everything else is like 3 minute, 3 minute, 3 minute and a half, 3 minute 40, 3 minute. So I just found that very interesting because I remember not seeing so many albums like this with this many songs on it. So that's just something that kind of stuck out to me. And with that also being said, this album is also 8 doesn't really slip up on this album. Mike T, Slip, Unknown, 8 on production aspect. They don't really mess up at all in this album. Like, it's all so good. So picking, and I know we say this on quite a few videos, but especially in this case, it's very hard to pick 3 songs. There's so many of them. They have so many similar characteristics that it's very hard to pick a third track. With that being said, it's not easy. Like, I was going between, like, Jack Mode. I was going between I Got to Get Over, but I'm just going to go with Use a Bitch as my third pick. And I think a lot of it is just from the sonic aspect. I really, really, really dig the sonics of it. The singing on it is really good, like in the back, use a bit, like that's cool, like the chorus is dope, like I like all that. And then 8 is, doing 8 stuff. He's rapping about like some things that he probably went through. Something that I thought was interesting is when he calls the girl the sneaky alligator. I thought that was, like, I'd never heard that. I don't think anyone's said that.
Before or since.
Before or since a sneaky alligator. So I found that to be funny. But, he's just talking about, like, a woman who, did him wrong. And this is, like, a tale that we hear in so many rappers' catalogs. And MC8's no stranger to that. But he's talking about that. But like I said, I think the bringing of all the elements, from the sonics to the singing to 8 to even the way he ends, like the second verse, how he has the lagged line like shit, use a bitch, or however he says it way better than I can. But all that stuff I think makes for a good song. I think, he's just giving another story, and then he sees the girl hooking up in the middle of the street and he caught her, and then all this stuff, and it's just a good song. The album is so good. I mean, you can really pick anything on this album for your third pick because, like I said, it's very consistent and very good. It's my opinion. Soren, what's your third?
It's very difficult. There are probably 5 or 6 I could pick for my third pick. So I'm going to go with Death Wish 2 because 8 has a certain pocket that he usually goes in, and Death Wish 2 for me, it just sounded like he was angry. Mm-hmm. And that to me separated it a little bit more because he has a controlled fury a lot of the time. That one, Death Wish 2, I just felt that he took it in a different place vocally and with his tone, which I was very impressed with and surprised. And the fact that it's so forceful and it's the second to last song on Music to Drive By threw me off a little bit too. But I like the fact that, and 8 and I have talked about this, you can check out the interview up there, but, with doing the Death Wish songs and the D.O.C, the fact that he has these song anthologies, I guess, sequels, parts 2, 3, 4, etc., I enjoy that too, and it just always appeals to me when artists are able to imaginatively continue something, like EPMD did with Jane, for instance. So I just like Death Wish 2, man, and I think 8 has really channels his anger on that song, and it really shines throughout, and I just have always liked Death Wish 2, man. Mm-hmm. So those are my 3 picks. You guys got Amir's 3 picks. As always, like, subscribe, hit that subscribe button. It's free right down there. Hit us in the comment section as well. Be sure to share Unique Access and get your friends on Unique Access too, man. We need that support to help us keep growing. I'm Soren Baker.
Amir, Rahimi.
Comptons Most Wanted, y'all. Thanks for this masterpiece.
Be sure to check out the history of gangster rap by Soren Baker. He's official.
History of Gangster Rap features exclusive interviews with Ice-T, Snoop Dogg, MC Ren, the D.O.C, and dozens of others. The History of Gangster Rap, a definitive look at how Los Angeles changed rap forever.
In Los Angeles, the streets definitely set the tone of the hip-hop music.
At 19, I got a $50,000 car.
My whole angle always was, I'll be street, but I will always tell you the horrors that go along with this life.
There will be penalties and casualties for just wearing the wrong color in somebody's neighborhood.
And once gangster rap made it from the streets to the TV, the genre exploded.
With Fab 5 on Yo MTV Raps with NWA.
Yo MTV, it just catapulted us from being local heroes to national gangbang rappers.
The history of gangster rap discusses it all from 1980 up till today.
It's always gonna be shit happening in the streets. You know what I mean? So it's always gonna be something to talk about.
The history of gangster rap in stores now.